I officiated a wedding last week, and at the Bedekin, this ceremony, we place a veil over the bride. We do it as a reminder of the story of what happened with Jacob and Rebecca and Leah. But I always like to share with couples another teaching, a teaching I learned from Rabbi Grover. And what he says is that by covering our eyes, we're reminding ourselves that what we're celebrating at the wedding is something we can't see with our eyes, we can't touch with our hands. No matter how beautiful the bride looks, everybody else in the room and the setting and all of that. What we're celebrating is something much deeper, the love this couple has for each other. We're celebrating the life, the journey the two of them are embarking on. And it always reminds me of this teaching of Rabbi Harold Schulweis of blessed memory. And when he spoke to children about God, he would use an example. He'd ask them to touch his nose or his ears, touch his arms, and then he would tell them to touch his love. And what he explained was that there are things which we know exist, things we know are real, but we can't see with our eyes. We can't touch them with our hands. But how do we know love is real? We know love is real because we can see its impact in the world. We can see love in actions. We can feel love's imprint on ourselves when somebody shares their love with us. Similarly, he says, we can know God is real from the impact God makes in the world. Moments when we feel God's presence. I've been thinking a lot lately about this. About things we know exist because we recognize their effect in the world, even though we can't see them with our eyes. Strangely, I always thought that the list didn't change. Things you can see, things you can't. And if you asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have told you that something stays on one list or the other. It's a different answer than I would give today. But today there's something I want to add to the list of things we can't always see, and that's community. Sure, community is something we see. And a year ago, I would have told you our community at Beth Tikvah, it's real. I know it's real for obvious reasons. I see a sanctuary filled on Shabbat morning, congregants singing, celebrating Shabbat, celebrating a bar bat mitzvah. I see congregants squished together near their shul family, schmoozing before, after, even during the service. And I see dozens of young families come together for Friday night dinner, kids running around laughing, playing with new friends, their Beth Tikvah friends. I see congregants honoring the memory of a loved one when somebody's lost. I see the chapel packed with familiar faces when I look behind the rows of grieving family. I see our community there to honor someone we've held dear. I see people comforting mourners, filling their homes during Shiva, sharing stories, memories, supporting each other at Minyan, sharing the experience of saying Kaddish for a loved one. Packed programs from lunch and learns to classes to choir practice. I can't tell you how many times during hospital visits as rabbi I've had to wait my turn because another congregant beat me there to visit a friend to offer them cheer. And I could go on and on and on listing these different ways I can see our community. But sadly, I can't say the same thing anymore. I speak now to a mostly empty sanctuary on Saturday mornings. People in Shabbat spaced far apart. I don't see people gathered together asking each other about their week, sharing their celebrations, sharing their difficulties. I don't see kids from Camp Shabbat marching around the sanctuary with the Torah. And I don't see young families coming together anymore for Shabbat dinner as a community, singing Shabbat songs or playing games. And when we celebrate a simcha, I don't see a community celebrating along with a family. And when we face loss, I stand before just immediate family, grieving without others to stand by them. Shiva visits have become a thing of the past. Hospital visits too. People are alone in life's most difficult moments. But I want to tell you that I don't think community has stopped existing. Just because I can't see it anymore, like love or like God. It has morphed into something we can't know through the usual means, but we can sense in other ways. Our Parsha this week, it mentions a strange ritual, the Egla Rufa. It's a ceremony when a corpse is found in a field outside of a city. The elders of the nearest city have to wash their hands in the blood of a cow. And they say, Lo shifchu et hadam hazeh ve'inenu lo ra'u. Our hands did not shed the blood, nor did our eyes see it. It's a strange, strange ritual. And commentators such as Rashi tell us that this statement isn't because we suspect the town's elders had anything at all to do with the murder, but it's a reminder that somehow everyone in the city has failed. From the people from the lowest to the highest levels of society, they've failed because this person who was slain was alone. And from this law, the rabbis and the Talmud derive a bunch of different laws, a whole bunch of them regarding our obligations to an individual in the community. But one of them I want to share with you is that we have to accompany someone 4 amot, 4 cubits, roughly 2 meters, when they leave our home or the city. The rabbis teach it's a symbolic gesture to remind both them and us that even though they walk their journey alone, there are others who are with them. Not physically with them, but nevertheless, they are with them. It's a reminder that the person is not an individual, but a member of a community. This law commands us to take action, to make sure nobody in our community feels like they're alone. And sure, it's symbolic. We can't all go and walk this person to their house when they leave ours, and we can't walk every person who visits our city to the next when they go on their journey. Yet this physical action, these 4 amot, these 2 meters, it's symbolic. But it reminds everybody that we are with them. It's ironic today. 4 amot, 2 meters. It's ironic because today that number means something totally different. Rather than going with someone that distance, we're not allowed to come within 2 meters of others. But I don't think the two are really so different. The symbolic act stems from the knowledge that we can't be physically with another person their journey. But it doesn't mean we just leave them to it. Instead, we are commanded to make sure they know they're not alone. Commanded to make sure that even though we are physically distant, we are spiritually connected. Some things we cannot see with our eyes or touch them with our hands. We can't sense them traditionally, but we know they are true because we can see the impact of that closeness on the world. I know our community still exists, not because I see it in the same ways I could a year ago, but because I can recognize the impact on the individuals who are a part of it. When I get emails Motzi Shabbos from congregants telling me how meaningful it was they could attend their shul, that they could hear their chazan from the safety of their own homes, the connection they felt. Or when a family in mourning tells me of the outpouring of calls, of notes they've received from the congregation, from those they didn't even realize their loved one had made an impact on their life or a connection with. When a grandparent tells me that on Zoom or FaceTime, or simply a phone call, their grandchild sang a Shabbat song with them that they learned here at Beth Tikvah at Shabbat camp. Or when a young family tells me they've begun doing Havdalah together in their home, since they can no longer join with other families here at BT on a Saturday night. Or even better, when they do it with another family on Zoom or FaceTime. When someone tells me how wonderful it was that another congregant dropped off a holiday meal or a treat on behalf of the shul. Your clergy and staff have been working tirelessly to create virtual opportunities of connection, of learning, of prayer. And we've been doing everything in our power to create in-person opportunities, like Shabbat morning services or Thursday morning minyan. Just recently, we've added Kabbalat Shabbat outdoors as a safe possibility for people to attend. We've been making as many phone calls as we can, trying to stay in people's lives to make sure we know what is going on in the lives of our community, to make sure our community knows that they aren't individuals, that even if we can't be physically together, they are still a part of Beth Tikvah. But we need your help. Normal is sadly a long way off. We can't sit and schmooze at services. We can't gather in the sanctuary with a crowd to mark celebrations, sharing nachas with a family. When a child becomes a bar bat mitzvah, or a baby is named, or a couple prepares for their wedding day. We can't pack a shiva house, making sure a mourner is not alone, or visit our friends in the hospital, or even those who are healing in their own homes. I'd be lying if I said the high holidays this year was going to be anything close to our usual experience. It's been a difficult time, and it will continue to be difficult for a while more. There is so much we can't do, but that doesn't mean there aren't things that we can. Just as we are commanded to walk for a moat with someone, to make sure they know they're part of a community, we must do the same. And we need your help. Call the people you would speak to on a Shabbos morning. Call and write notes to the bereaved. Don't let anybody mourn alone. If you don't feel safe yet joining us in person, gather at home with your bubble. Join us virtually in prayer. Join us for virtual learning. Or if you prefer, join us for programs like wine tasting and paint night. Create your own virtual gatherings, a Zoom Chavurah. You can connect over a class or just a cup of coffee. But we have to maintain our community. There's a story I love about a couple who met in university. They get married, they have a baby boy, and as the boy grows older, the two of them would always talk about how much they loved their time at university, how great it was. They would endlessly tell their child stories about it. So one day they and their child were so excited when they got to go see the university, when they could show their child the place where his mother and father had met. They took the boy around the campus, they pointed out landmarks. Over there's the lecture hall where I first saw your mother. She was sitting a few rows in front of me in class. Over there was the library I was studying at when your father asked me out for the first time for a date. Over there's the grass field where we would meet every day on Friday afternoon for lunch. This is the coffee shop where we would sit late in the night, talking. The stories went on and on until the young boy interrupted them and said, "This is great. It's a beautiful building, it's a nice library, a great coffee shop. I love the grass field. But you told me you met at university. Where's the university?" What the child didn't understand was that all those different places, together they made up something larger, something more than the individual components. We're now in the month of Elul. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are right around the corner. No holiday reminds us more that we're not individuals, but that we're part of something larger than the high holidays. Just look at the liturgy of them. Al chet shechatanu. For the sin we have sinned. Our reshet sefatenu. May the words of our lips, Ashamnu bagadnu. We are guilty. We betray. Salach lanu, machalanu, kaper lanu. Forgive us. Pardon us. Grant us atonement. It might be hard to see because we're all physically distant, but we are not simply individuals. We are part of something much, much bigger. We are Beth Tikvah. We are a community, a holy community. And it's up to each of us to do our part, to make sure not a single member of our community forgets that. It's up to each of us to make sure that nobody feels they are alone right now. We have lots and lots of members. As staff, we can do a lot, but there's only so much we can do. We need your help. The obligation is on us all. Just like the lesson from our Parsha, the whole city is guilty. If a single person does not feel like they are part of the larger whole, we cannot see our community the same way we could before. But like love and like God, we can know things are real, even if we cannot see them directly. So please, please help us. Help us to make sure that every person can feel the impact of this amazing community. Even if we can't see it in the same way before, we can sense it in the world, we can feel it. Shabbat Shalom.